But most institutions of higher learning have also begun with registrations, and new students are getting ready to secure their place. But experts warn that many matriculants will soon be confronted with the reality of challenges around access, costs, and of course competition for places. Last year's matric results saw a 3.3% improvement in the number of bachelors passes and a 1.1% increase in those qualifying for access to diploma studies. And we have, of course, here on Morning Live already had discussions about the quality of those passes. But to discuss some of these issues further from our Durban studios, we join now by Dr Mlamuli Hlatshwayo, who's a curriculum and education studies lecturer at the University of KwaZulu-Natal. Dr Hlatshwayo, good morning. Thanks so much for speaking to us.
Thank you so much, Sakina, and great for having me.
Dr. Hlatshwayo, it feels as though we're going around in circles yet again, because we keep talking about access and, the number of institutions and their capability, the capability of these institutions of higher learning to absorb the number of matriculants that have qualified for a bachelor's or diplomas. How are the institutions coping at this stage?
Not very much, Sakina, not very much. I'll make you an example. When you drive to the Durban SABC studios, and if you make one wrong turn, you end up at the UNISA campus here in Durban. And already it was about, 8 o'clock, and there's about 500 to 600 long students queue. Those are predominantly your black working class students queuing there. So you can already imagine that those are the earliest cohort. They've arrived there from 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock this morning. There's still another batch that just woke up now that's still going to be joining that queue. So at least by the time it hits about 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, you're looking at about 3,000, 4,000 students queuing. The UNISA story is the South African story. That's what's happening across university campuses in the country. So there is that disjuncture that you just mentioned now between the basic education system that keeps pumping out all these numbers. Yes, it's quite encouraging that the bachelor's pass is increasing, but to what extent do the universities themselves have the capacity to absorb these massive numbers? And that's the challenge that we are currently facing at the moment.
But I guess the more pertinent question is a challenge that is not altogether new. So what is being done in order to overcome it, Dr. Hlatshwayo?
Oh, it's not a new challenge. It's certainly not a new challenge. Currently, that's one of the reasons why we had that monumental and historic 2015-2016 student movements. Your roads must fall, fees must fall. One of the issues that they've centered beyond curriculum transformation, beyond institutional culture, beyond decolonizing the South African university as we currently understand it, there was also the critique of the admissions policy itself in how there seems to be a mismatch between the message that is communicated at basic education saying that you need about 26 points for you to qualify for a bachelor's pass, 26, 28 points to qualify for a bachelor's pass. At the same time now, you've got universities that are telling you that we accept bachelor's admissions from 32 and above. So there have been multiple kinds of attempts that different universities have tried, but come on, they haven't gone that far. I'll give you an example. Historically, universities like University of KwaZulu-Natal have received about 120,000 applications for about 6,700 spaces. UCT has just reported with Professor Pakeng that they've got about 73,000 applications for a space of plus minus 10,000 or slightly under that. So even though they are trying their utmost best to keep absorbing these numbers, going through the electronic online system to try and make it much more efficiently, but it's still becoming a recurring headache, and we're still seeing all those long queues on our South African campuses.
But where does the solution lie, Dr. Hlatshwayo? Because those students need to be channeled somewhere. Where do we channel them to?
Well, the solution has been existing, actually, Sakina, for quite a while now. We do have a differentiated higher education system in the country. And what I mean by that is that there are traditional universities, there are universities of technology, as well as there are TVET colleges. Now, in a properly working, efficient economy, it would be easy for students to be able to decide with proper career guidance coming from basic education, beyond just LO, proper career guidance that they need at schooling. They should be able to understand that my my passion is electrician, my passion is boiling, my passion is plumbing. So then it's easy to advise some of those students to begin to explore other alternative possibilities within the TVET colleges. There's no reason for those students to be going to universities. There's no reason for those students to be going to University of Technology, and there's not even a reason for those universities to go to private institutions. However, in a not well coordinated, incoherent, differentiated system that we have in the country, we do have, quite understandably as well, a lot of black working class students seeing these traditional universities, seeing especially these historically white universities as the panacea towards intergenerational poverty, as a solution towards making a meaningful difference in their life. So I think for me the solution is quite an old one, but it's still a relevant solution. We need to make sure that this institutional differentiation and the different kind of higher education institutions that we have in the country are properly financed, they are efficient, they are capacitated, there are proper qualified academics working in those different institutions so that they can at least work. That way we don't have such a heavy burden being reliant on traditional universities, receiving over 100,000 applications, only knowing very well that you've got a space for about 6,000 students. So one of the ways that you can try and mitigate against that, and I'm glad that the Minister of Higher Education, Training, Science and Technology has already begun to speak about this language of making TVET colleges fashionable. I'm not sure what he means by that, but any attempt is welcome that can begin to expose students to the possibilities that are offered, not only at universities of technology, but also at TVET colleges would be welcomed.
And of course, that's a conversation for another day altogether, you know, the readiness of other institutions to absorb these numbers. But just finally, Dr. Hlatshwayo, when looking at costs, you're looking at the financing, the competition aspects that you mentioned, what other realities do new students have to face?
Oh, they're in for a rude awakening. I mean, it's not just cost. I mean, cost is the one that you are asking. I mean, it's quite... Yes, it is true that, I mean, with the whole fees must fall movement and the then Jacob Zuma administration saying there's going to be free higher education for those deserving students who do qualify. So in a way, at least in the financial sense, it did open up a lot of doors to these students to be able to apply and go to these different universities, because at least they know that they are being funded. Also, it is important to note that your TVET colleges, your public TVET colleges as well, they do accept your NSFAS applications. So there is a sense that at least financially, they do have an opportunity to be able to apply on the NSFAS. We also do know about the challenges of the missing middle. Sakina, you do remember the so-called too rich for NSFAS, too poor to afford the university fees, and how universities such as Rhodes universities and others have started beginning to buffer and fill that gap in the form of loans, in the form of study bursaries and those other opportunities. But the point that I really need to emphasize, Sakina, and it would be remiss of me to miss it. Yes, the finances are important. Yes, the transition from basic education to university education is important. But it is important to critically understand that we are still in higher education involved in the debates towards decolonizing the university. Financially and physically accessing the university is only one part of the struggle. Yes, physically, formally, you are registered. But there's still issues of curriculum reform. Our curricula in South African higher education is still deeply alienating and very untransformed and quite archaic in terms of some of the knowledges that are being privileged. For those students who are going in historically white universities, here I'm referring you to your Rhodes University, the University of Cape Town, the University of Pretoria, Stellenbosch University and others, they will be confronted with a different set of problems regarding the institutional culture, whiteness, what others, I think the Open Stellenbosch collective called it Afrikanerdom. Basically feeling as a black student that I don't belong, the university is not doing its utmost best to make sure that I feel like I belong, that this is a university for me, and that there are proper systems and infrastructures in place that can make me be able to not only negotiate but also to survive and academically thrive. So those are some of the challenges that they are confronted. Yes, the financial issues are very important.
We're going to leave it there because I suspect we need to have a broader conversation and perhaps a roundtable looking at all of this. But thank you so much for your time this morning, Dr. Mlamuli Hlatshwayo, Curriculum and Education Studies Lecturer at the University of KwaZulu-Natal, talking to us about some of the challenges that some matriculants may face as they try to secure places at institutions of higher learning. A quick break.